So I'm here in Peru. It's my third day here. I'm here for 8 days, and there's 4 ceremonies with ayahuasca. The first ceremony was extremely difficult, and I didn't experience one positive thought the entire night. It was kind of just like taking me through this roller coaster ride of the contents of my mind and like the contents of the various stories and programs and programming that's in me. And it was terrifying, and it was kind of like a nightmare that I couldn't escape from. It was like 5 hours straight of nothing but negative thoughts, just all these different systems and ideas, and it was like it was taking me on this like roller coaster ride, or like tour through my mind. But you know, when like in these ceremonies, like it tends to dissolve away, time dissolves away, so you get that fear of like you left space-time in a way, and like you kind of are like, when is this ever going to end? But I think it was taking me through, I think it was just bringing up the way that I generally think anyway. And I kept going through all this stuff about like, it just kept going, like cycling back to the same like group of people or like group of thoughts that was like this like little quick fix and like little quick hit of dopamine. And the way I envisioned it was like a couple of like Kardashian type women sitting in a car scrolling Facebook or scrolling something and talking about the things that they're going to go shop for, and they have a ton of makeup and they have a ton of food, and they're just like this hedonistic mindset. And it basically was like, it's so much to comprehend. I mean, the ceremony happened 2 nights ago. I'll probably spend a really, really long time digesting it, but it was like every time I was like, please, is there a positive thought in here? Please, can I just think, like, help me think a thought of love? Did I lose the ability to think thoughts of love or positivity? And then at those moments, it would cycle back as if it was just like this merry-go-round, and it would cycle back to those women in the car talking about, or like that type and that whole feeling. It's hard to put a visual to it, but that's what my mind constructed. But it was like, it went back into that mode of like hedonism, of like, and it gave me like a little good feeling, like a little lift, and it was showing me a little bit like, this is what you do when you feel crappy and you want to go, and then you resort to these old ideas of like, well, let me go look at entertainment, let me go buy something, let me go watch a TV show, let me go whatever it is, look at social media. And it was as if it was just magnifying and just playing out for me the way my mind functions anyway. But it was like being in a prison or like a washing machine of like negativity. And it went on for 5 hours, and it was just like coming at me like 1,000 miles a minute. And there was just no break, like absolutely no break. And I was just like begging, please, can I just get a breather or something? It just kept coming, and like, I remember thinking, like, having this insight in the ceremony, or like it was coming to me in the midst of this, like, what are these things we call thoughts? Like these things we call thoughts, and like, Peter, do you really know what composes a thought? Is this stuff you've been playing around with your whole life not really thought? Is it basically just like this, like these parasites of worry and of hedonism and consumerism and attachment and obsession and all the things that your societal programming has put in you? Have you ever questioned, like, do you think these things called thoughts are real, and you think you know how to use them, and you think you know what a real pure thought is, but do you really? It was kind of just showing me like that I exist in this modern world of like instant gratification, and kind of like the idea that what if it's all, I'm walking around with faulty wiring, and I'm walking around with like this idea that we think it's normal, but have we really gotten deep and dug super, super deep into what the true essence of a thought is? When you wash out all the crap and all the gunk and all the programming we take on, the programming as a society, and as it gets co-signed by all of us because it becomes normal, and then we just think, oh, those are thoughts, and we never occur that it's such an arbitrary construct, a thought. Just like I think an idea of a personality is an arbitrary construct. Because it's ever changing. It's just one way of categorizing things. And then I had this thing about, like, even on social media when it was just this thing that occurred to me about how it's like this culture of like gawking and like a peep show culture. We're just observing all the time, like social media and everything, and just like, it's all we do. And it's a little bit like, I just got this whole psychology of like, we look at people, and then the people that are different are kind of like interesting in a way, like we're fascinated by this. But then it's almost this imaginary safety net we have about keeping up some idea that if everyone likes me and no one knows my weirdness and all the ins and outs of who I am, then I'll be safe. Which I had that for many, many years of like, I think if I just maintain this polite facade and I just am who I am and I don't step on anyone's toes, I'll be okay. And being publicly shamed or being publicly shown in a way, like when I do these videos or whatever, that could be the greatest sin of all, the greatest like break and breach in the social contract of normalcy, you know? And I was super nervous when I first released a video, because I'm like, well, now I've taken off, now I can no longer hide behind those polite facades, and I just said, well, here I am, like, take me or leave me. Which is hard, but it's like in the ceremony, it was just kind of ingraining this thing in me. It's like, why is it so fascinating to just say who you are? Why is that so special? We're all super different, and we're super wild and crazy and weird anyway. So why is it like some crazy thing that I just said what I felt? Those people just say what they feel. They just say what's in their heart. But in the ceremony, it was like, it was just never ending. It was like a car alarm that wouldn't go off. I was like, please, 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 please let me have a different thought than like this whining and this anger. And I heard that, like I could hear it as if it was myself, of like, you know, let's go buy this, or let's watch this TV show. And then I had these paranoid stories about like I thought something had been taken from me and like taken out of my soul. And it was like this story about something was extracted from my DNA, and I was like, oh my God, it's irreversible. What have I done? What have I done coming down here to the Amazon? Even though I've been to this place before in April of 2017, so a year and 10 months ago. So I have that trust. But still, it was like, and then I had all these paranoid delusions that my soul was gone, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do now that my soul's gone? Like, it's a foregone conclusion that my soul has been taken by the shaman. And then as the medicine was taking me through all these different like realms and ideas and just like non-stop things, and like that thought kept creeping back in. Of like, well, my soul's gone. I'm permanently damaged. I'm no longer Peter. I would keep going on the ride, and then it would creep back in. And then I started to have the intuition that like, that story is almost like an old little safety net, like a life vest that I'm holding on to, or like a comfortable teddy bear that soothes me. And it was almost like the medicine was trying to take me through these rides and like feel all this stuff, and like I could almost see the silliness of the story and how imaginary it was, but the power of it in being so terrifying that it almost could be real, but it wasn't real. And then by the end of the night, I went to my bed and was like wobbly, and I was basically like drunk, and I was still intensely in it, and it had been 4.5 hours since we had drank the cup of ayahuasca. And one of the helpers helped me. He grabbed me by the arm, this Peruvian kid, and they wait like until you leave the ceremonial maloca where you sit. So like all the energy is contained in there, and the shaman can keep everything safe and like protected, and the energy is the shamans sing songs to you, these icaros that can magnify the energy and take it to new places, and he's just like an architect and like a technician with the energies, and he can work with many different people at once. The shaman, it's like they have multi-dimensional abilities. But when I left and then he took me to my room, I was basically like, it was like I was drunk, like super drunk, and like having the spins, and like I was gonna fall over. And I got to my room and then laid down. It was still going super strong for like another 2 hours, and I was like, please God, make this end. Please God, like let me out of here. Like, and I was convinced that like I had been abducted and like enslaved by something. And I was just like, well, what do I do now? What are you going to do to me? I was like, well, we own you. We own you. And I was like talking to this thing and like, we own you now. We own you now. And now you're just going to be a hedonistic consumer, and you're going to be a, whatever. You're going to do what you tell us, and you don't have a... And not until later when the medicine started to come down did I realize, oh my God, like this captor that I've constructed to be so terrifying, and that I think controls me, and that I think formulates my entire view of the world, is my own mind. Like my mind is the one that is enslaving me. But the last 2 days I've basically just felt, since the ceremony was 2 nights ago, I just felt this feeling of like such a deep emptiness, of like just so flat that I haven't been able to feel like a single emotion, just like nothing, just totally like emptied out. And like I have the sense that it was like pulling these things out of me and releasing these things, but it was so terrifying in it. And I'm starting to feel like good feelings creep in, and like the trust in the medicine, and like, because there is 3 more ceremonies, and like I got over that first hump of like just trusting it and remembering the power of it. And like even when it is difficult and you lose touch with, like, you go to these crazy places and difficult places in the ceremonies, just that trust in your heart that like the medicine and like the spirit of it is taking care of you and you're getting what you need. Just glad to get that first one under the belt, because typically it's like, that's how it usually goes. Like you have stuff to excavate maybe in the first 1 or 2 ceremonies, and then after it's like, then you start to build it up more and the positivity comes in. But like, I've just felt like a completely blank slate the last 2 days, just like so empty and just so dead, completely dead. Got like 3 hours of sleep that night. I purged a little bit. Like I had to go to throw up at like 3:30, 4 a.m. And then I had to shit, and I basically, on the way to the bathroom, I basically shit myself, and it was like just spewing out like before I got to the toilet in time. So it was like on my pants and on on the bathroom floor, and like it's just nasty. And like and then it just comes out of you just like liquid, just like it takes every last ounce of physical, emotional, spiritual, mental energy out of you, and it's just like you're just so dead. You're just like, but I'm starting to feel like better, like in my body and in my mind, and I'm starting to feel like just generally healthier, because they have us on this like basically vegetarian diet for all the meals. You have to be on a very strict diet, and like My body's feeling better. I'm just feeling generally like more connected spiritually, and just like some of the walls are coming down and some of the stress is coming out, and like I think just being patient with myself in this little in-between period of like where I got maybe something was stripped out of me, like maybe like derooted in a way, and like it was ripped out of me, where it's like maybe you feel a little naked, and it's like, imagine like someone had a intestinal tapeworm or something in their body, or like a bug or a tumor or a virus or something, or like a parasite in their body, and then when it comes out and it's been in there for however long, and it's been being fed or however long, it takes your body a really long time to adjust. Even though you're healthier now, it's like it has to learn how to be naked and free of the virus, and naked and free of this, whatever the ayahuasca was coming after, like old fears and old traumas and old mind patterns, like in my DNA, in my brain, wherever. And maybe the reason I perceived it as so terrifying, and I perceived it as sort of a threat, like I was dying, or like it's going to take my soul, oh my God, like it's going to take everything from me, and oh my God, I'm going to die. And like, maybe the reason I thought that is because I identify with them as they're real. I identify with these fears and these traumas as if that's the real Peter, and anything that's a threat to that will be perceived as dying because I think it's real. However deep it's been and however long it's been in there, it's not the real me, whatever it is, and to learn how to just perceive in a new way, even after all these years. But it's still a little bit like I can't really, it's hard to get the energy to like do this video even, and like write, and because I love journaling, to just hash it out, but I'm not in a decoding mood at all. I'm not in that mood where I just want to go write and write and write, where sometimes I have that. I just have no energy. It's more like I want to just feel it, and I want to let it happen, and just like rest and recover and let it happen. But I think it's good to just, it's taken me a couple days to just start to feel the magic of this place again, and to start to feel like, remember the power of the first time, and how I felt, really homesick and anxious in the first couple days. And then now I'm just feeling much more grounded and much more safe, and just like the people here are so loving, and just everyone, people that cook and clean and all of them, they're just like angels. These Peruvian people are just so kind, and that adds so much to the experience, and just like the whole energy of this place is so powerful. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. There's about there's 5 other people on this retreat, and then the one guy that leads it. But it's amazing how you come in as strangers, and you just have one shared common goal of getting better, and everything else can be different from that. All the other variables, but you just have one shared common goal of getting better. And it's amazing how quickly you can bond with people, and it's amazing the miracles that can happen, like truly miracles. I remember from last time, and I'm starting to get that faith and that hope and that excitement back from last time, because I've just been getting over that first ceremony, that hump, just like reestablishing the trust, even though it was pretty hellish, and kind of just let it happen and just surrender and get out of the thinker's mind and into the heart.